So A.J. Preller does not win the Executive of the Year award. I don't know that I'm going to be more outraged about anything than that one. To me, that was the biggest already error of the postseason awards in Major League Baseball.
Well, I think Schulte and Preller are like 1 and 1A, right? I mean, because you cut $92 million, you traded Juan Soto, and you had to really do some patchwork action to get the team, ready to play on opening day, Ben. And then the moves that Preller made at the deadline obviously helped propel us to where we were. But there needs to be a guy that comes in and runs the ship, takes that cut payroll, builds a new culture. I feel like I'm going to be just as pissy when Schilt loses it to Pat Murphy tonight.
Well, and I agree with you, because if Matt Arnold, who won the GM of the Year award, the Executive of the Year award over A.J. Preller, if he did all the heavy lifting in Milwaukee, then are you going to give that award then to Pat Murphy? Or if you think that A.J., I guess, didn't do enough and it must have been all Mike Schilt, then don't you have to give the award to kind of Mike Schilt today? Somehow you feel like the Padres are going to come out on the short end. And that really is, I think, what is bothering the fan base here.
We said yesterday we were hoping for a split. If you could get a split between Merrill and Schilt, Manager of the Year, Rookie of the Year, now I don't know.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I feel like this is heading down the road where the Padres are going to get shut out here. And honestly, it does feel like there is I don't know if it's a conscious anti-Padres bias around the league, but it may be subconscious. Something about the San Diego Padres rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, it's been happening. It happened. Peter Seidler rubbed all the owners the wrong way when he decided to, spend money on players. That was a big no-no to Bob Nutting and Dick Manfard and the rest, and it inspired other teams to go out and spend money. And so I look, we always feel that way, but I think being objective, there's something you've seen the way that Brian Kenny has talked about this team. You've seen it. You've seen what Ken Rosenthal has done to this team. You've seen it. You've read it. It's right there for you to read. So it's. I understand when people are like, oh, keep crying. All right, man, but like if you really, whatever fan base, if you're a Guardians fan or a Yankee fan or a Dodger fan, take those glasses off and just look at what Brian Kenny said. Look at what Ken Rosenthal wrote. And tell me that there's not something there.
Yeah, Jackson Merrill not winning the Rookie of the Year award is not the crime of the century.
Correct.
In Major League Baseball. Again, Paul Skenes is a worthy recipient of that award this year. But I think it's just another piece of evidence that has been compiling over the last few years since, Peter Seidler took over the team, since Manny Machado joined the Padres, since Fernando Tatis Jr. burst onto the scene, that the San Diego Padres rub a lot of people in baseball the wrong way.
Yeah, and it's an important distinction. The people in baseball, what they've been able to do as far as growing their fan base, and really that's what counts. It counts when Fernando bust on the scene or Manny got signed or whatever, and then Jackson Merrill. To see how people have gravitated towards those certain players has been phenomenal, and it's done wonders for the brand of the San Diego Padres. And Mud and Don, anytime we play in Cincinnati, they'll always make the point of saying, look how many friggin' Padres hats are here. They want to see Fernando. They want to see Manny. They want to see Jackson Merrill, Luis Ariz, guys like that. They've done a great job in winning over little kids, Ben, from other markets, right? Like, that's what counts. Is like, yeah, I mean, my dad's a Reds fan, but I sure love Fernando Tatis Jr., and that's the team I'm going to root for. And that's really all that counts. Is you keep doing that, you're doing the right thing.
So, how bad was it? How of a mistake was it? We can discuss that. We will get to it right after a quick check of traffic here with Kelly on 97.3 The Fan.
7-3 The Fan.
The big thing for me, Woods, is me. I like to have things just make sense. And I understand generally even how baseball writers kind of tend to think about the game. I've seen it in the past. I've seen it work against the Padres in the past, and I tweeted about it yesterday. All the way back to 1998 when Trevor Hoffman was denied the Cy Young Award, and it was given to Tom Glavine, who had a good but not great season, ostensibly because he was a starting pitcher. He impacted his club more than Trevor could in the ninth inning, even though Trevor had an historically good season as a closer, and Glavine just had a really good season as a starting pitcher. They went with the guy who had, more of the impact, pitched more innings, was out there more for his team.
Sure.
Fine. If that's the rationale, then that's the rationale, and I can't really argue with that. But here, with the Rookie of the Year this year, they went the opposite way. Jackson Merrill clearly had the more outsized impact on his team, really in every way. Playing time every single day, leadership, pushing his team to the playoff appearance, impacting his team's season. Paul Skenes was more perhaps spectacular on an individual level.
Yes.
But that's not generally what sways the baseball writer. So why in this instance did they go completely opposite of the way in the past they have tended to vote for this award?
That's such a good question, and one that I don't know that you'll ever really get an answer to. And I brought up Barry Bloom earlier, and he essentially said, I'll read you his comment last night, if I can find it. We have time. We have like hours. Yeah, I'll take my time. I'm not worried about it. Maybe not.
You good, Benny?
Yeah, I'm fine. I want to be patient with Woods today. We're just glad he's here.
I thought I bookmarked it. I didn't, so F me, I guess. All right, I'll come back to it. Go ahead.
So anyway,
just threw a huge monkey wrench.
Would you like me to read it?
Show. Yeah, do you have it?
Said,
you can't find it either?
They get deleted?
You might have deleted it.
I think I got deleted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gone.
Take your time. That's fine.
It's gone.
No, it literally got deleted.
It's not there anymore. But essentially it said, hey, he did everything that he was supposed to do. He was the number one pick, and made an impact, made a bigger impact. And I disagree with. It doesn't matter where he was picked, right? That doesn't matter to me.
Which shouldn't.
If you're going to take that into account, then why aren't you taking into account that my man Jackson Merrill literally switched positions? Like they said, yeah, I know you play short. You play center field now. And he came in and played a really nice center field for the San Diego Padres and didn't affect his hitting in any way. You've seen it go after veterans like Xander Bogaerts. Like, well, surely I can't hit now because I moved to second base and I'm worrying about the transition. This kid is a rookie making his debut. So it doesn't really matter where Paul Skenes was picked. Like, some would say, all right, yeah, you're supposed to be really good. You're the first pick in the draft. I'll give it to the guy again. You're talking about an everyday player. You're talking about one of the most clutch, if not the most clutch player in Major League Baseball this season. So that's what stands out to me is like the everyday guy should get the nod, the guy with the most impact. You mostly impact your team. You impact your team the most by being on the field every day. It's not Paul Skenes' fault that he only pitches every 5 days, but that's the way that it is. And he is a phenomenal talent. You guys know how I feel about it.
All right, here's the tweet. I found it. He didn't delete it.
It's still
there.
There you go.
He was responding to someone named Mike, who said, "Did you write about the decision anywhere? I'd like to know your reasoning." And he said, "I couldn't write about it. We're sworn to secrecy until the vote is announced. I will say I thought Skenes had the numbers, was the first pick in the draft, and made a national impact. Nothing against Merrill. He had a terrific year coming out of nowhere."
The national impact he made that's true. Like for example, if on a Wednesday afternoon the Pirates were playing the Cubs, because that's who he pitched against the most, they said, hey, the Paul Skenes is on. And I would say on these airwaves, get to a TV and watch Paul Skenes.
I love Paul Skenes.
He's got really, really good stuff, and he's fun to watch. And he is. He is. He absolutely is a great pitcher.
He also has a great social media presence.
100%.
And, he's promoting baseball and advancing the sport. All good things that we we support as well on this show.
Does he have a great social media presence, or does his girlfriend have a social media presence? Because I don't remember ever seeing a Paul Skenes post. And going,
it may not be his account,
cool.
but it's him, and you're seeing him a ton, and it's his world, and he's promoting baseball, which is great, absolutely great. Should have nothing to do with the National League Rookie of the Year award. In fact, if I was one of the voters, I'd be extra careful to make sure I was not trying to be swayed or opinionated by that at all.
Yeah.
I would really like lean the other way to make sure I'm just going by, all right, how do I usually vote for this award? What do I really value in a season and in a player? And generally what I've seen is that writers value the position players more than a pitcher who made, 22 starts over the course of the season, which is why, to me, it just didn't make a lot of sense. Now, you can complain about Barry. His was not the deciding vote. It wasn't 16-14.
Right.
It wasn't even close.
It was just that logic that didn't make sense to me.
It was 23-7. Now, it doesn't really matter how close it is. If every single writer said, I have it at 51-49% in favor of Paul Skenes, he could win the vote 30-0, and it's still an incredibly close vote. If every single writer came down just like a hair's difference between the two players. So the final vote count doesn't mean a lot. I would have been shocked if Jackson Merrill had won at 23-7. I was thinking it was probably going to come down to a vote or two either way. So it was a little more lopsided than I expected it to be. But in the big scheme, it doesn't matter what the final vote total was. It's just the fact that I don't understand that particular rationale, or other than the fact, I mean, if you say, I just thought Paul Skenes was the most spectacular player in a great season, that's fine. You're allowed to have that opinion. It's not a wrong opinion. If you value what he did because his ERA was under 2 and he is one of the nastiest pitchers in baseball, yeah, that's a real argument to vote for Paul Skenes. But in terms of being the first draft pick and having a national impact, I don't see those as arguments for voting for Paul Skenes.
I mean, if impact, again, is the word you want to use, give me the guy that impacts the game every single day. How many games did Jackson play this year?
156.
156 games as a rookie, switching positions. That's pretty outstanding, man. 156 games, new position, clutch god. I mean, clutch god. He was spectacular in so many late inning situations, and I was really bummed because he has taken this city. He's taken this city by storm, and you see the effects of Jackson Merrill. Not that Paul Skenes hasn't done the same in Pittsburgh. I'm sure there's a lot of kids trying to grow a mustache and get a really, really hot girlfriend because of Paul Skenes right now. But it's just being here. Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit swayed when you see little kids wanting to take balls in the outfield now instead of just the infield because of Jackson Merrill. His impact is huge, and the impact he had on his teammates, the impact he had on that clubhouse. That clubhouse we are not where we are. We didn't get as far as we get without him there. We just don't. And that's impact to me.
I was watching MLB Network yesterday, and after the award show, MLB Now or whatever it is, with Brian Kenny and Buck Showalter, they were talking about it, and they both agreed. They thought Merrill should have won it. He would have gotten their votes. And they said something. I think it was Brian Kenny said something like, talking about Paul Skenes, and he goes, now look, Paul Skenes is a regular season award. His team didn't get to the playoffs. That's obviously not his fault.
Right.
That's true. It's not one pitcher's fault that a crappy team like the Pirates doesn't make it to the playoffs. But I heard that and I go, well, Jackson Merrill, his team did make it to the playoffs.
Correct.
I know it's a regular season award, but his team did make it to the playoffs, and it was his fault.
It was his fault. Yeah, I mean, it was as much his fault as anyone's that team was in the postseason.
How is that not such a driving factor?
And think about, too, guys, the reactions of if it had been Jackson Merrill, if they had panned to a room with A.J. Preller and his crew in it, what would their reaction have been? Jubilation. Just joy, screaming, champagne. You go to Pittsburgh when Paul Skenes won it, I can promise you Bob Nutting was like, son of a bitch. We just lost a year of control. with this guy. We're going to have to trade him early. Now his price is, it's
1
just
year closer to being
1 year
a Yankee.
closer to being a Yankee or a Dodger.
Yeah, so just quick, Ben explain that. The player promotion system, the incentive system that Major League Baseball set up, because Paul Skenes was not on the roster to start the year, the Pirates were ineligible to get that bonus draft pick. The Padres were. Had Jackson Merrill won the Rookie of the Year award, they would have gotten an extra first-round pick at the end of the upcoming draft, and that's a real value for the San Diego Padres. It's actually, for a lot of people, that's the biggest disappointment of yesterday. You can be sad for Jackson, should have won the award. Actually does hurt the Padres organization that they didn't win it, and it also hurts the Pirates organization that they did, because they left Paul Skenes off the roster for a very simple reason. They didn't want to have to pay him after 6 years. You can manipulate service time, keep his clock from starting, but because he won the Rookie of the Year, you erase all that, and he gets a full year of service time as the Rookie of the Year. So the Pirates were thwarted, the Padres were thwarted, and ultimately it's kind of a bad outcome for both organizations that Paul Skenes won the award.
Well, and again, Jeff says, did Merrill still get a year of service time? Yeah, bro. He broke camp with the team.
We weren't trying to hide. The Padres weren't trying to hide that.
And
he played all year. Listen, he gets the year of service because he served a year.
He served a year. And I'll tell you this, man. You can say what you want about A.J. Preller and the San Diego Padres. They don't do this crap. They don't do it. They don't do it. They don't mess.
They didn't do it with Fernando.
They didn't do it. When they see a guy that they know is ready, it's worth it to them to win the actual games on the field than to go in and screw with a guy's service time. They don't do it. They just don't. And
I still remember, was it 2019?
I respect the hell out of that. I really do, and always have.
Remember when Peter Seidler said, like Manny and Hosmer and a couple other veterans, they came to him and said, Fernando, and I think even Paddock, and maybe at the time, they're like, he needs to be on the opening day roster.
100%. We're trying to win.
Said, if we get to the end, and we know how 2019 ended, but of course, the beginning of the year, you're always excited and you have big dreams. And he goes, if we got to the end of the season and we missed the playoffs by 1, 2, or 3 games,
because you're trying to save a year.
Because we held Fernando back 3 weeks or a month or whatever. Yeah. He goes, I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
Cubs and Chris Bryant, man, is the best example going out there. And Padres don't do it. They whatever concerted effort they made. They sat in a room one day and said, we got to be different. We cannot do what the Pirates do and what the Rockies do and what the Cubs are doing. We have to be different. And let's be honest, what the Pirates are doing.
And that is one of the philosophies that, going back to where I started, has made the Padres somewhat of pariahs in Major League Baseball. They're outsiders. They do things differently. And in some way, consciously or subconsciously, the Padres get punished for coloring outside the lines a little bit of what all the other teams think is the right, proper, responsible way to do baseball. Padres do it a different way, and people don't like that.